So I've had this record player about 20 years, and it's always sounded pretty good, but as you can tell, it's developed a little bit of a hum over time, and it's getting so bad that I need to address it. Also, this wood is pretty chipped up, and somebody did a pretty terrible stain job sometime in its life, and I'd like to repair that or restore that too, but I don't want to do that before I know if I can actually make this sound good. Now, I'm not really sure what's causing the hum. We're going to diagnose it. I've never teared into this thing. I've never even had the back off, so I'm not sure what's in it, other than I do know it's a tube type amp. That's why I really like this unit. So come with me and let's see more about it and see if I can fix it and get rid of that hum so I can listen to my records again. Well, here's a look at the amp and all the circuitry for everybody out there to look at. Original tubes in there. Here's the little diagram that's in here that tells which type of tubes are in this amp. A little bit close up of the transformers and the back of the unit here. Alright, one of the first things I thought I'd try is grounding to this screw on the tone arm, which goes through to a metal plate, which is grounding the needle or the cartridge assembly. And I'm touching that there, and I'm grounded to the chassis there, or what would be the chassis with the circuit board. That's not doing anything. That's not doing anything. So I don't think that's the trouble. I'm just going to go around and, well, very carefully ground to the black. Nope. So that's a speaker one part. Nope. That part. Nope. Alright, after some off-camera kind of probing around, and just so you know, I didn't go anywhere too close to this amp and stuff because there's high voltage in there, and I know. So I'm not going to probe around on the board right now, especially with it powered on. I have it unplugged right now. But my biggest issue is I thought, because this is a wood cabinet, there's wires that have to ground from the metal turntable over here to the chassis or some other circuitry. So I was trying to make another path to earth from, you know, either like the tone arm or this mechanism here that might not be making a good connection through the traditional wires how it was originally built. Couldn't figure that out, or couldn't find anything wrong with that. Still have the hum. So I'm kind of working my way through, and now I think it's time to dive into the amp part. Okay, we're looking closely at the amp and everything. We're unplugged from the wall. It's been discharged for a while. So any capacitors shouldn't have any charge in them and everything, but I'm still going to be very careful here. But I started doing some research using the schematic that's on here, and I also downloaded one, found one for this unit on the internet, and so I can know exactly what is in here. This is a preamp tube, these are two power tubes, and this is a rectifier tube. And you guys that already maybe know what I should be checking in the comments, and you're yelling at me, is it's probably somewhere maybe in these capacitors, which I think that's what this thing is. It's huge. There's power supplies here, but it's a 60 cycle hum that I've determined, obviously, from reading some information on the internet. And this rectifier tube is what, well, rectifies the AC current to some DC to run these preamp and the power tubes and other things that need DC power. So, on a long shot, I bought all new tubes because these are old, who knows, but I'm going to try the rectifier tube first and see if that makes a difference. Also, I might add, visually inspecting it, it doesn't look bad. It's not black in here. The silver on the top looks pretty good. I've heard that when they go, the tops turn kind of white. They don't really look that way. So I'm guessing this isn't it, but I do have a new tube, so let's pop one in, see what happens. I have the new tube here, which I actually got from thetubestore.com, which not sponsored. They don't, you know, they didn't give me this or anything. I had to pay for it. So let's, easiest thing is, and this was inexpensive, so let's pop it in, see what happens. Turn it on. And we still have the hum, so that didn't help. Turn this light off. Let's let it run a little bit. See how the tubes are glowing. They looked good before, but let's see if we can even get it on camera. You can kind of see it a little bit, but I really need to turn the lights off and then you could really see them glow. But, okay, I don't think that's our trouble. I think it has to do with the input power, and that's what I think it has to do with that big hunk of paper and wax there, and some of the wax has fallen off, so that's my next job. Okay, I don't see any markings on this big, I think it's a capacitor, kind of would make sense, but there's a bunch of wires coming out of it, so I don't know, maybe it's another type of transporter. Oops, I dropped the screw down there, I'll grab it later. Oh, on the other side here, there are some values. Alright, I see upside down, and I see, obviously this is, it's a little bulged over here, and it's just a paper cylinder with some wax around it. And yeah, there's 4 wires, and it okay, it has the microfarad rating here, so it's 100 at 300 VDC or volts DC. That's on the red. The blue is 75 at 300, and the green is 70 at 25, and then the black must tie them all together for the ground. Okay, looking at the schematic, I noticed that these capacitors in here do control power that goes into either these 2 transformers and then to the tubes, or after these transformers and then into the tubes. I didn't really, couldn't really determine that with any real certainty, but this is easy to get to. I can clip these wires and get some other capacitors that are close to these values, splice them in, and we'll see if that helps. That's all I can try here, other than taking this board off and start looking to see if there's other capacitors on this board. Looking in there, there might be a few ceramic ones, the little pancake style, but I can start replacing those, but this one's easy to get to, so I'm going to start here, and this, I think, filters the input power, which I think is my problem. So let's see if that works. After a trip to the internet and reading some more forums and everything, and the internet sent me these more modern style cylindrical electrolytic capacitors. Now, I printed out my schematic here so I could kind of trace some of these out, and that's right, the capacitors in there go to eventually that tube rack there, going to the rectifier first, and then into, well, one's for the motor, I think, and it goes then into the preamp and the power tubes. Anyway, I couldn't get the exact values, but I said as long as you get ones that are rated for a little bit higher voltage or around the same microfarad rating, they'll be just fine. So I have a pack. This is the least I could buy, was 5 packs of these things, but I have a 400 volt at 100 microfarad, so I'm going to replace that for the 2 300s. I know one is at 75, but I'm thinking a little extra capacitance probably isn't going to make a big deal, but we'll see. And then the other ones are the 25 volt ones, and these are another 100 microfarad instead of 75. This is what I could find easily. And have shipped that wasn't going to take like 2 months to get here or whatever. I couldn't find some of those locally. But anyway, with my schematic and this, I'm going to make some pigtails onto these so I can just kind of plug them in just for testing purposes, and then I'll eventually solder them in real nicely and then zip tie them up or do something to kind of mount them in there. But let's see if this works. I'm hoping this is it and I can get my record player back together. Well, here's my temporary solution with the capacitors. Now, I won't leave it like this with these connectors, and I'll probably solder these in more permanently in some fashion if this works. But this was just to get it tested to see if this was indeed my problem. So I have the power plugged in, and I have it plugged into the cord. So I'm going to just turn it on, and we'll wait about 10 seconds and see if we have a hum. Turntable spinning. We'll wait. Usually by now we'd have a hum. Just hear a little bit of noise when I crank the volume all the way, but that's probably a little normal because it's picking up from the needle. But no hum, no 60 cycle hum. So that was my problem. Yes, success. That's what it was. Now everybody in the comments that knows anything about anything here and like tube amps is probably like, that was the first thing you should have done. Well, I don't know that. But hey, I figured it out, and now all I got to do is clean up that and package it in there real nice and solder those capacitors in, and this is ready to get put back into service, and then I can think about how I'm going to restore all the wood. So get subscribed. I will probably make a video on restoring the actual wood and cabinet and everything, and you know, check out my website if you're into vintage motorcycles and things like that. I have tons of information and restoration videos on those. So again, thanks for watching, and get subscribed.